I don't really know if I want Vladdy Bo to be learning from a guy like Grichuk more so than another veteran. But no, I mean, hopefully Grichuk has a good year. He did have a good spring or summer. So I think he's batting seventh, or he's like projected to bat seventh tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know. I don't expect too much from him this year, but hopefully he can step up and be an impactful player for them.
I think in 4 years you're gonna look back at Grichuk's contract and think it's good.
Because he'll be gone.
No, he won't. I don't think he'll be gone.
So yeah, first of all, big news today. So much stuff broke. I want to start it off with Jake Paul. I don't know if you heard, but Jake Paul is going to be fighting in the Mike Tyson undercard. And I don't know why I said Jake's name first. I should probably say Mike Tyson's name first because he's the big guy in this. He's making a comeback to the ring. So that's on September 12th, I believe. And that should be an exciting fight. And yeah, like I said, Jake Paul, he's going to be on the undercard there fighting against an ex-NBA player, Nate Robinson. I don't know if you've heard the name.
Yeah, I know
But
Nate Robinson, the short guy.
yeah, short guy, but apparently
he had to try it with the Seahawks a couple years ago.
Yeah, he's a dual athlete. He had a great NBA career, played with a bunch of different teams. And yeah, he's tried out boxing. He looks pretty good from the few videos I've seen. I don't really know if I have a prediction yet. It's hard to say, but I do see a lot of people already counting Jake out. And I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Jake, but I wouldn't count him out yet because he looks okay. And I don't really know what Nate can do. He doesn't have a professional fight under his belt like Jake does, or Jake has like 2 fights, 1 professional. So I don't know, just thought I'd throw that in there off the top. Also, we got some hockey news as well. Seattle, they announced their team name and
big news,
their jersey and logo, Seattle Kraken. What do you think of that name?
It's pretty cool. I think it was the one that won the name competition they did over there. So yeah, I think if it's what the fans wanted, it's the direction they should have gone. It's pretty cool color scheme, kind of different colors than what we've seen before. So I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think the jersey has to grow on me a little bit, but I do like the color scheme and the logo looks really good. And the production of those videos, I don't know if you saw on the Seattle's Instagram that they posted, like the whole like on the boat thing with the water. I think that was really, really well done. So it built a lot of hype yesterday, and then the video that they posted today was really well done as well. So shout out to Seattle. They're off to a good start. Let's see if they can get some players now. Yeah, so anyways, let's move on to some baseball. But first of all, welcome back to Unlimited, episode number 9. This is like, I guess, episode 8, part 2, but I'll call it episode number 9. Familiar guest from last episode, Tyler Moore. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Long day at work, but I'm sure it was the same for you. So
yeah.
Hey, we got a lot to talk about with the Jays. We're trying to get to some Jays talk in the last episode, but it went on for a little bit too long. So we thought maybe cut it up into 2 episodes. That would be the better thing to do. So that's what we're going to do. But before we get to the Jays, there was actually some stuff that broke, starting with yesterday's big news. Mookie Betts signed a 12-year, $350 million deal extension with the LA Dodgers. So, that Red Sox president, I think he said today that, he's a little bit upset that deal got done. But I don't blame him for that. But yeah, good for Mookie Betts. I think that's the second biggest contract in the majors right now, behind Mike Trout. So yeah, long-term deal for Betts. He's going to be about 37 years old when that contract is up. So, hey, he's going to be there for a while, but I think the Dodgers have a lot of winning seasons ahead of them. What do you make of the deal, Tyler? Did you expect to see Betts sign this early?
It makes a bit of sense this year with how the free agent market's going to look. I think it's probably smart not to go into free agency in a year like this. So I think he knew he could get quite a bit out of the Dodgers, being that they're the Dodgers and he has some leverage over them because he could just walk. Um, so yeah, I think it was smart for him to sign the way he did and get a huge contract out of it. And I think the Dodgers will be quite happy that they're keeping him. It's not just a rental from him, especially with losing Price. So I think they'll be quite happy, and he'll help them hopefully to a World Series for their fans over the next couple of seasons. They've been so close, so he might be the thing to push them over the edge. But we'll have to see what a couple of years down the line looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I would be ecstatic if I was a Dodgers fan, locking him up. And then, now they got to sign Bellinger, and then they got a 1-2 punch for a long time there. So a little bit of negative news coming from the Dodgers today. They placed Clayton Kershaw on the injured list, the IL, with some back stiffness as he was hurt in the weight room on Tuesday. So he gets scratched from the opening day start today. We're recording this on opening day. Dodgers play at 10 or 10:30 here. So, that's a tough loss right away for the Dodgers. But, hopefully Kershaw's going to be okay. And a guy like Walker Buehler, I don't know if they've confirmed who's pitching tonight,
It'll
but
probably be Bueller. He was scheduled to go number 2, so
yeah. And I'm sure Walker Buehler is good enough to go tonight on. He's probably had some rest. So I don't know when the last time he pitched was, but I'm sure he's good to go. And that's a guy that the Dodgers can roll with as their ace if Kershaw is out for a longer period of time. But I'm sure he's going to be okay. And then also, Juan Soto tested positive for the coronavirus today. And that was really surprising to hear because the Nationals played, or they are playing right now. They're playing against the Yankees. And, it's already getting off to a bit of a rough start for the MLB, I guess. And already day one, and a big name player like Soto has tested positive for COVID. So there's not really too much to say about it. Just hopefully he gets well soon, and hopefully other guys on the Nationals are okay, and nobody else has it. And yeah, just wishing well to Juan Soto. There was also some giant news today that caught Tyler really off guard, or a lot of people off guard. The playoff format. The Jays have a good chance of making the playoffs now. It might be a good season to be a Jays fan now, with 16 teams making it to the MLB playoffs. So that's obviously gigantic news. Tyler, I kind of already mentioned your reaction, but what was your reaction, I guess, when you heard the news?
it was it was pretty big news. They've been kind of stubborn to change their playoff format over the past years. I know back in 2012 was the last time it changed when they added that one game wild card. So yeah, I think it was crazy news to know that there's going to be confirmed at least 2 teams from every division in the playoffs. That kind of changes everything. It's a fight for second as much as it's a fight for first this year. So that really brings in the kind of more fringe, and guys that would miss it, teams that would miss it. They kind of get into the mix this year, and I think it would drive a lot of competition. And I think it'll make things pretty exciting to have that many teams in the playoffs.
So yeah, like Tyler said, it's going to be the top 2 teams from each division making the playoffs, and then there'll also be the 2 wild card teams as well, being the 7th and 8th place teams with the best record among the remaining teams. So I'm just going to read a little bit about what CBS Sports said here. So all first round games will be a part of the best of 3 series. And the games will also be played at the home of the higher seeded team, eliminating the need for a travel day. So I guess that makes sense. You don't want to have the travel. It's unnecessary. And also the league and the MLBPA agreed on a $50 million postseason bonus pool for the players. And the MLB had previously offered $25 million in negotiations last month. So a big boost to that negotiation process. And speaking of the divisions and teams again, like I said, all 8 second place teams will qualify for the 16-team playoff format. The 7th and 8th place teams will be chosen by the best record among the remaining teams. And the teams will be seeded 1 through 8 based on the 2020 season record. So that's great for all those teams that are maybe in the NL West with the Dodgers competing for a second spot, or even the AL East. You know, they got the Rays, who are looking, you know, more and more like a playoff team now, or the Red Sox, or even the Toronto Blue Jays, which we're going to talk about now. We, like I said, didn't get to them last time, and we got a lot to say. First and foremost, we don't know where they're going to play. The Jays are homeless right now, and it's been going on for a while. Lots of rumors, lots of reports that we thought were true, but turned out not to be, with the Pittsburgh Pirates and the PNC Park expecting it was expected that the Jays would play their home games, but quickly the Pennsylvania government shut that down. So the Jays are still looking for a place to play. There's been rumors today about Baltimore, Camden Yards being a potential place for them to go. I think the Orioles have given them permission, but they're just waiting on the government in Baltimore to give them the yes. And I think I brought it up last time, maybe, that I still think it should be Buffalo. But I think just in terms of the lighting and I think field dimensions as well, there has to be a lot of work done to get that stadium prepped and TV ready and MLB ready. But in my opinion, I just don't see why another MLB team would let the Jays come to their ballpark, go into their same dugout, their locker room facilities. I think it's just going to be chaos if that happens. So I see why the Pennsylvania government shut that down. And I'd be surprised if Baltimore, Maryland, right? Baltimore?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they said yes to the Jays. So I think it's going to be Buffalo. But there was also news today about Washington being the home for the Jays home opener. So there might be a chance that the Jays just flip-flop from different stadiums, at least to start the year. Tyler, you got any thoughts? Where do you think that the Jays are ultimately gonna play?
Yeah, it's interesting to see them in Washington to start. I guess they might not be too thrilled with that now that they know Juan Soto tested positive. They travel there after they play the Rays. I think they'll be there Monday night, Sunday night. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then they're going to welcome the Yankees down there. So hopefully that'll give them about another week and a half to make a decision and firm some things up. I don't know how fast or how long it takes to get up major league lighting in a ballpark. So that's a factor. I think it's not ideal at all that they have to play there. It's the facilities obviously aren't as good, and teams, it's just not. It doesn't seem like the nicest place to play 60 games. So it'll be a shame if they do have to play there. But it's looking. I think you're right in saying that that's probably the top of the list right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate because I'm sure a lot of the Jays will not want to play in a minor league stadium, but I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't think the Jays do or anybody knows. So we'll see what happens in the next week or so. I guess we'll have some more answers. But as of right now, the Jays will be playing in Washington for their home opener, which is crazy. Crazy times we're living in right now. Let's move on to some Jays talk. So their 30-man roster got announced today. We're gonna go through all the players and stuff. Let's try and break it down position by position, and let's take a look at their starting rotation off the bat here. So Hyunjin Ryu gets the opening day start. He's the Jays' ace this year. He's going to be playing against Charlie Morton to start against the Rays later on today. And looking at the rest of their rotation, they got Matt Shoemaker, Trent Thornton. Unfortunately, Ryan Barucki didn't make the team. I thought he could have. But then they also have guys like Anthony K as well, and Tanner Rourke. And Chase Anderson will not be on the team to start the year as he's injured. So, who do you think gets the start in game 2? I don't know if the Jays have announced it, but I think it's looking like Tanner Rourke. But what do you think of, like, who do you think would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or who do you think would be 2, 3, 4, 5? I guess after Ryu.
I thought I heard something about Shoemaker going number
Okay.
2. I think it'd be nice to give him number 2. The numbers he put up in his limited starts before getting injured last year were pretty spectacular. So I think he deserves to go at number 2. And then I think Rourke follows at third. And then Thornton, I think he's pretty solid in that fourth spot. He had a good performance against the Red Sox last night before the game got called off. I think, 2 hit them through 4 innings, something like that, which was a good performance. And then, yeah, it looks like Anthony Kay beat out Barucki to get that
Yeah.
5th spot in the rotation, beat out Pearson as well, although I think they're probably just manipulating service time. I think he probably would have made the team if service time wasn't a factor. But yeah, it's good to see a guy that was the kind of the main piece back in the Stroman trade, making the team. And I've heard projections he could be a solid number 2, number 3 starter in the MLB when he gets to his prime years. So yeah, it'll be nice to see that on display for a couple starts at least. And then if Pearson comes up, he might be the guy out, or you never know with injuries. Chase Anderson gets into the mix too once he's healthy. So yeah, they'll definitely have a few arms to work with in the rotation.
Yeah, so the Jays do have a lot of depth at pitcher, and just looking at the guys who made the 30 man, they are carrying a ton of guys in their bullpen right now. They decided to go bullpen heavy, so some surprising names that made the cut: Thomas Hatch, Brian Moran. Um, you guys probably don't even know these names. AJ Cole. So a bunch of no-name guys, but AJ Cole had a really good spring. I think he gave up no runs in, I believe it was 6 innings, if I'm not mistaken on that. Or sorry, 6 games. Yeah, 6 innings. He only gave up 3 hits in the 6 innings. So I think he deserved to really make the team. Thomas Hatch and Brian Moran, they're also surprising names, but they did have decent springs with the Jays, or summers, I guess. Moran, he went 5 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, so not as good as Cole, but still pretty solid. Only 4 hits, so 4 hits, 4 runs for Moran, and then for Thomas Hatch in the spring, he went 5 and a third, and he gave up 2 earned runs. So pretty similar stats, I guess, for all of these guys. Tyler and I are going to get into who we think are going to stick around for the 28 and 26 man roster later on. Those names might be in there, but you'll just have to stay tuned and find out. Any other surprises from the bullpen, or just maybe touching more on those guys? What else do you really know about those 3?
Yeah, I'd read an article or two about Thomas Hatch. I heard Pete Walker was pretty high on him. He thought he had some good stuff, some good movement on his off-speed pitches and a good fastball. So I heard he was kind of the dark horse to make the team. Don't be surprised if he makes it. Brian Moran's a cool story. He's a 31-year-old. This is only his 2nd season. I think he was on Miami last year. You'll probably remember he played his brother in his first at-bat against the Pirates and struck him out for it was his first appearance in the big leagues, and his first at-bat was facing his brother. So that was a pretty cool story. So he's a nice guy to have on the team, a veteran. He's could be kind of like the Chris Rowley role, older rookie that comes in, or in this case sophomore. But yeah, it's nice to give him a chance. AJ Cole he used to be a starter on Washington a couple years ago. I think he had a good season back in 2016, maybe something like that. And then I think he's had injuries and lost starting rotation jobs. But yeah, I think he played his way onto the team this spring. He had a good 6 innings, like you said, only 3 hits. So I think you can't ignore that. Yeah, I guess biggest surprise to not make it, probably Thomas Pannone. I
Yeah,
don't think his
lefty.
name's in there. He's a lefty, so you would think he he is a lock to make the team, but he doesn't. He's kind of getting older to the point where he has to show what he's got, or he's probably going to be out the door. So I think this was his prove it year. So he's probably not too thrilled to be off the team, but that might motivate him to do a bit better. And then I guess the reason why you're seeing these names on the pitching side, you have two guys who were pretty much locks to make this team, and Chase Anderson and Wilmer Font. Wilmer Font being in the bullpen. With those two guys both injured to start the year, that opened up two spots in the for pitchers, and I think with those two guys healthy, you might not see guys like Hatch or Moran make this team. So I think it gives guys a shot that might not necessarily. So hopefully they can run with it and do well.
And also a guy like Nate Pearson, him not being on the team to start the year, that's what gave these other guys the opportunity to crack the roster. Also Ryan Barucki as well. But let's get into Pearson a little bit because he's on the taxi squad to start the year, and he's going to be traveling with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he is likely to be the first guy to replace a pitcher that gets injured because he's a righty. I guess if it's a lefty that gets injured, maybe they go with Barucki. But chances are Pearson is going to get a start in the majors very soon. I think the Jays are going to work him in with a couple of bullpen sessions still. And I think I saw a report, or not a report, but I guess a rumor or a thought. I forget who it was, but they were saying that Pearson might get the start at home. I think it's against Philadelphia or at home, but wherever the Jays play against Philadelphia, whenever that is. So I think that's going to be a couple weeks from now if Pearson um, is on track for that start and he does well in the bullpen session. So we're definitely going to see Pearson up here soon, and then probably one of those guys that we mentioned will get sent down. Let's
I think the key thing with Pearson is just his service time. I read an article. I think if they wait until July 28th to activate him, I think they get another
a
year
year, yeah.
of
It's the
service.
Vladdy rule.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, I think they're gonna hold off to get that extra year. I think he'll probably only miss one start, so he'll probably slot in. He might miss two to give Anthony Kay a better look. One start is kind of not fair judgment on a guy, so they might give Kay two starts and then put Pearson in. Depending how Kay does, if he does well the first start, he might get a second. Yeah, and then also you touched on Barucki. It's pretty surprising him not making the team. I would have liked to have seen them there. I don't know how Kay did in the spring. I don't know how either of them did in the spring/summer camp. Um, but it's nice that they put him on the taxi squad. It shows they still have some loyalty to him. So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't start a handful of games this year in the MLB.
Yeah. I'm looking at their bullpen again, and there's not too many left-handers. I'm actually surprised that Pannone wasn't considered or didn't make the team. But yeah, I don't know. Like they got Anthony Kay, who's a lefty, and Brian Moran, who's also a lefty. But and I guess Ryu. But yeah, I don't know really. I don't really know what Montoyo's plan is right now, but I'm sure that we're gonna see Barucki at some point this year. Maybe even Pannone if they realize that they got to carry more lefties on the team. So yeah, I wouldn't rule anybody out this year right now. Let's take a look at their defensive side of the game, or their offense. And let's go to their infielders first. Bichette starting shortstop, Kevin Biggio starting at second base, Vladdy at first, Travis Shaw at third, and then Rowdy Tellez at DH. On the bench, Santiago Espinal made the team and Joe Panic made the team. Which one of those two surprises you the most?
I think it's got to be Espinal. Panic they brought in he has some major league experience. He was an all-star in the past. He's a World Series champion. So I think they brought him in to make the team. I think they brought him in knowing he was going to be their main backup infielder for this season. He does have a little bit of concern having pretty much exclusively played second base. So he's going to need some more reps at other places if they want him to be a utility man. But I think it's great that Espinal makes the team. I think it gives us a chance to see what he's like coming over from the Pierce in the Pierce trade to Boston from a couple years ago. Yeah, so I think he's 25, so he gets his shot now. He turned that nice double play in the Jays summer camp, so hopefully he can bring out more of that and capitalize on his opportunities and see if he can't stick around past the first roster cut.
Yeah, it definitely was a surprise to see him on the team. But yeah, like you said, Panic, former Gold Glove winner, World Series champion, lots of experience. So he's going to bring a lot to that Blue Jays clubhouse. So I couldn't see them, cutting him right off the bat at least. We'll see if he sticks around for the 26-man roster. Um, let's take a look at their outfield. And I guess there was really three guys like in competition, Alford, Fisher, and McKinney, but they all made the team. They all made the first cut. And so, yeah, in the outfield, they got Anthony Alford, Derek Fisher, Billy McKinney, and then the starters, Randall Grichuk, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and Teoscar Hernandez. So they got a lot of versatility on in the outfield right now. They got speed, they got power, they got guys who can just get on base. So I really do like what they did with their outfield, deciding to keep, especially a guy like Alfred, because I think he can do it all. I think he has some pop in his bat. He can run. He can play good defense. And then you got a guy like Derek Fisher who hit 2 home runs against the Red Sox in their first exhibition game. So he looks pretty good. It looks like he's made some adjustments to his batting stance as well this year, trying to get more power in his swing. He also ditched the high socks as well, which I like. I like the look. And then Billy McKinney, he's always a guy who he's not going to hit with the most power, but he can get on base, steal a couple of bases for you as well. So, and play solid defense in left or right field. So solid options there for the Jays. Tyler, you got any thoughts on the Jays outfielders?
Yeah, I think there's a couple reasons why they probably took 3 extra outfielders. One of them being that they have 30 spots to start. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities. Number 2 is the fact that both Alford and Fisher are out of options. So if they were to drop one of them off the roster, they'd have to clear waivers, which I don't think either of those guys would. So I think wanting to keep both of them while also giving McKinney a shot. He came over in that Hap trade, so they still feel like they need to give him more reps. And like you said, he's a guy with some speed, where their outfield doesn't have too much of that. So he can come in, be a pinch runner, gets on base, like you said. And another reason I think you got Gurriel dealing with a little bit of a lingering injury. The last report I heard was that they think he's going to be good to go opening day, but that was yesterday that I heard that. So I don't know what his status is by tomorrow night. So they could be just wanting some insurance in the outfields. And yeah, I hope he's healthy to start. It's always fun to see him. He's kind of an electric player, fun player to watch. Yeah, so I like them taking those 3 guys on and giving them all a shot to start. I think you'll see a lot of rotation in that outfield. Maybe you'll see Gurriel at DH a little bit if he's still dealing with a bit of soreness from his injury. Yeah, and then another thing, you got Jonathan Davis, who is also that 4th guy in competition there. He conveniently picked up an undisclosed injury, so he's on the injured list to start, just so they didn't have to send him down. He comes up with an injury somehow, so they can kind of keep him near the roster still, and make a decision in the meantime.
I think Jonathan Davis is going to make the roster at some point. He's just so speedy. I think he's going to be like that Dalton Pompey. If the Jays ever make the playoffs, in coming years, or maybe this year with the expanded playoffs, he's a guy who you can really trust to come off the bench and steal bases for you. So he's going to be a little bit of a wild card for the Jays moving forward, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, this is a 30-man roster with the expanded rosters this year. A bunch of guys who we think might not stick around for the 26-man roster, with Pearson gonna come up, Barucki knocking on the door, and then guys like Wilmer Font and Chase Anderson as well, who are currently dealing with injuries, but they're going to be coming back soon. So let's break this roster down to a 28-man roster. We're going to be Charlie Montoyo and Ross Atkins right now, and we're going to have to make the first cuts. So let's go to, or here, let's do this. I'll say one player, you say one player. I'll say one player, you say one player.
Okay.
So, or let's do, so two of them to start for moving it
Yeah.
down to 28. So, in my opinion, I think the Jays will get rid of a pitcher,
Yeah.
and I think that pitcher is going to be Brian Moran. I think it's going to be him. I just think that, you know, he's not really an established player in this league yet. I think that he had the worst spring out of the guys that we previously mentioned in AJ Cole and Thomas Hatch. And I think that Ryan Barucki is going to replace him. So swapping out a lefty for a lefty makes the most sense to me. So I don't know if you agree with that, but I think Moran might be the first guy to get cut.
I'm gonna go with the pitcher too. I would probably lean more towards Thomas Hatch. I think he was a wild card to make it at a camp. I think he's young, so they might not be as willing to watch him struggle. I think he'll get a couple innings right off the bat, nice and early, and then see how he does. If he doesn't perform, I could definitely see him being the first one to go down. I think, like you said, with the lack of lefties they have, I don't think they'll be able to get rid of Brian Moran unless they're bringing in Pannone, but he's not even in their taxi squad. So, yeah, I don't see him being the first cut unless he really blows things up. I think they need another lefty there. I don't know if they would be comfortable with Barucki or Anthony Kay coming out of the pen. I think they want to keep them both stretched out as starters this year. So I think they kind of are forced to keep Moran if they're not going to. They don't trust Pannone to come back up. I think they're going to have to run with Moran for a little while.
All right, let's take a look at their offense and who we think might get cut from their offensive side of the game. And I look at their infield, and Espinal was a surprise. And then I also look at their outfield, and they kept 6 guys, and you only need 3 outfielders. So I think one of Alfred, Fisher, or McKinney will get cut. And I think just because of the options with Alfred and Fisher, it's going to be McKinney that gets the cut. I also think that Alfred and Fisher are better players than Billy McKinney right now. I already said what I think about Alfred and Fisher. They want to give him a chance to prove himself after that big trade last year with Sanchez and Biagini with the Astros. So I think McKinney's going to be the odd man out here. Who do you think is going to be the second cut for the Jays?
Yeah, I think this time I have to agree with you. I think carrying 6 outfielders is something you can't really do with rosters anything less than 30. So I think they're gonna give Alford and they're gonna give McKinney and they're gonna give Fisher all their fair shot. I would think probably you're gonna see more of Fisher and Alford, but I think McKinney will get a shot to get a few innings and at bats in there. But yeah, I think, like you said, just because he has an option left, I think McKinney's the easiest guy to send down. But this is all up in the air with Gurriel's injury concerns to start here. If he's injured, then you might see all 3 of those guys getting hung on to because you're going to get a lot of reps in for all of them, so you get a bigger sample size to see what each 3 of them can do. So I think if Gurriel gets injured, Espinal might be on the block to get sent down just because he's that second backup infielder. But I think if Gurriel has shown he's healthy, I think it'll be McKinney.
Mm-hmm. So then I guess let's just think about their 26-man roster now. Would you say Espinal is is a guy to get cut for that roster?
Yeah, I think it'll be him or Panic. I think Panic has a bigger leash, longer leash than Espinal. So if Espinal doesn't perform, I think he'll definitely be out when it goes down to 26. I think Montoya's shown in the past he likes to carry that extra pitcher when he can. So I think you'll see a pretty full bullpen this season. So I think Espinal, rather than to have two infielders, I think one of those two are going to be the first out ahead of any pitcher when it goes down to 26. So yeah, I think Espinal is probably prime candidate to go down first.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. And then just looking at their pitchers, I think there's gonna be another cut coming in their bullpen. I don't know who exactly it's gonna be. It's tough to say because we haven't seen much of these guys. I think it could be between AJ Cole, maybe Anthony Bass, or Thomas Hatch, or Brian Moran. I don't know if he's going to be a part of the 28-man roster, but we'll see. I think it's just going to be in between those four. Do you kind of agree that it's going to be a pitcher, or do you think it could be a guy like Alfred or Fisher? I guess it's a pitcher, right?
I think it depends how many pitchers they're allowed to carry. I don't know if they'd be allowed to carry enough if they didn't take out a pitcher with this. If they're allowed to carry that many and they could take out another batter, I could honestly see them taking out another outfielder potentially. I think
Okay.
Montoya really likes to have a lot of arms to work with. Maybe
Yeah.
it's he changes up in a shortened season, but I could definitely see it. I think also something you have to consider is Font and Anderson both probably being back by then. So you have to look at who's going to come off the roster when both of those guys come back. I think AJ Cole, being that he's an older guy on a minor league contract, he doesn't have a long leash. I think they'd be quick to give him up. I don't think they're invested in him that much. Jacob Wagaspack, I think, has minor league options. He could go pretty easily. He was kind of a surprise name I saw on that list in the bullpen to start the year. I think you could even see a guy like Kay or even a guy like Font. If Font comes out and isn't throwing well, I think you might see him go. He hasn't really shown he can be consistently good at the major league level. Last year he had a good season, a really high strikeout rate. I think that's why they like him. So hopefully he does well, but I could see him, being that he had injury problems to start the year, they might consider letting him go if he can't get back in rhythm.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree about the Font thing. I don't know about K yet. I think that if it doesn't work out for him as a starter, they could really use him in the bullpen as a lefty. Um, but yet again, he's very young, so it's hard to say. I guess we'll see how he does in his first couple of starts. But I really want the Jays to give him as much opportunity as they can because a lot of Jays fans were disappointed with that return for Stroman. So he's got to prove himself a little bit, and hopefully Jays fans can be happier if he plays well. Um, let's look at the Jays overall now. And, their offense is mostly very young with their core of Bichette, Biggio, Gurriel, and Vladdy. Um, at pitcher, they got their ace, their guy in Hyunjin Ryu. And then, after that, it does get a little bit weaker, but there's guys like Shoemaker who did get off to a great start last year before the injuries happened. If Chase Anderson comes back, then he's a good arm. Tanner Rourke, we'll see what he can do. And then a bunch of wild cards with the young guys. Nate Pearson, if he makes the team, or when he comes up, if he's going to be good, and Anthony Kay as well. So what are your expectations for this young Toronto Blue Jays team this year? Do your expectations change at all because of the expanded 16-team playoff format now, you think?
I think they definitely change a lot. I think opening up more playoff spots and having a young team are a good combination. I think the Jays are confident that they can at least fight for that third spot in the division. And doing so, I think they'll pick up enough wins to sneak in as the seventh or eighth team, which I think they would really love to do. I think everyone will be motivated to do that. I think the Jays bats have looked good against Boston, and that's a team we're going to need to win against a lot if we want that third spot. They're going to be kind of our direct competition for that spot, I think. So it was promising to see Vladdy hitting home runs, to see even Derek Fisher hitting home runs. You got to see Bichette making some great plays defensively, hitting all right, getting on base. So I think, I think it's pretty promising. I think expanded playoffs mean the Jays are going to be right in there near the bottom in the East. And hey, when you get in there as a wild card seed, you never know what's going to happen. So it's kind of a wild card once you get in as a wild card.
It's a good way to put it. I think even in past years, the wild card teams have done pretty well. At least I think up until the Jays were a wild card in 2016. I think, looking at a team like the Kansas City Royals in their playoff run that they went on in 2015, being a wild card team, they had that crazy game against the Athletics, and then they just, caught fire at the right time and made it all the way to the World Series. Didn't work out that year, but then the next year they come back even better and they win it. So a lot of momentum from the wild card teams we've seen in the past. So if the Jays sneak in, anything can happen. It's the same with any sports. If you just make the playoffs, anything can happen, I guess. We're going to talk hockey later on in previous or in the next upcoming episodes, because NHL season's right around the corner and we got a lot to talk about with that. But back to baseball. Expectations for Jordan Groshans and Austin Martin. What do you think the Jays' plan is with those two guys? Groshans has been one of the Jays' top prospects for a few years now. And, he's looking for a shot to make the team. Do you think we see him at any point this year? And then same with just drafted Austin Martin. It's kind of hard to tell what he's going to be capable of right now. We didn't see much of him at all in the exhibition games, and saw a little bit of him in the inter-squad, but not much. So what do you think the plan is for both Groshans and Martin?
Martin, I don't think you see this year, barring any crazy decimation by injuries to the infield. I think he's just way too young. I think they just wanted to give him a little bit of taste with the big league guys in those training camp days, but I don't think he plays. Groshans, I'd also be surprised if he plays. He's still young too. I mean, if Espinal looks bad really early and they want to send him down, maybe Groshans is a guy that gets called up when rosters are still up at 28. Maybe they carry him to see what he can do. So I don't think we'll see a lot of either of those guys, but I think there's a better chance Groshans gets in there for a few at-bats. It'd be cool to see. But then again, you just need to weigh service time manipulation and his age and everything like that. So it'll be a tough decision. But it'd be interesting to see a guy like Groshans get in so early in his career.
Yeah, I think, Groshans got a lot of reps in for the inter-squad games, but he didn't really stand out as much as I would have liked him to. So I don't really see him getting a big shot this year. Maybe like later on down the stretch, if they need a spark or something, they bring him in for a couple games. But I think I agree with you on both of the guys, really. Martin, I don't really expect to see too much of him. I do want to talk about what you think Martin's position might be in the future, though. Like not this year, but do you see him maybe taking Biggio's spot at second base? Do you see him in the infield at all? Do you see him in the outfield? What do you think his position of the future is going to be?
I think what we see in the infield is Vladdy's planted at first, and I think Groshans is probably the third baseman of the future.
Okay.
I think Bichette needs to show that he is defensively capable of playing shortstop for him to stay there. I think right now what I gather the plan is, I think Biggio, they're planning to move to the outfield to open up a spot at second base. So that could mean Bichette moves over there and Austin Martin slides in at short, or it could mean Austin Martin takes over at second and and Bichette stays at short. I'd love to see Bichette stay there. I think it's always nice to have a really exciting guy, a good offensive player at shortstop. So if he can get his defense sorted out and consistent and be a defensive cornerstone for the Jays, I think he will stay there, and I think Martin will see a lot of time at second, maybe a little bit of time in the outfields. But yeah, I think long term you see Groshans, Bichette, Martin, and Vladdy in that infield.
Seems like a pretty good infield to me, and they can all hit. So, that's a really good core to build around. And then, a somewhat younger guy in Gurriel in left field, and we'll see what happens with Randall Grichuk. You already really know my thoughts about him. I don't really see him sticking around for too much longer, especially after they gave him that awful contract. But what are your thoughts on Grichuk? Do you see him being a part of like a long-term solution for the Jays? Do you think he could stick around for that whole Vladdy era, I guess, and help these Jays potentially win a World Series one day?
I think he has a very strong chance of sticking around. I think ownership really likes him for whatever reason, whether you think it's good or bad. I think ownership really likes him. They rewarded him with a good contract. I think you got to have a couple older guys on your roster. The way it stands right now, the Jays are going to be so young with you have Jansen behind the plate, that infield we just talked about. You have Gurriel in left. You probably have Biggio in right if he moves to the outfield. So I think you need a good veteran presence in center field. I think Grichuk has shown defensively he can keep up. He's no Kevin Pillar, but he's definitely above average defensively out there. And I think a center fielder that can, if he can get on base a little bit more and maybe give up a few home runs to just get on base, I think that would do him well. I think he has some speed, so if he can take advantage of that more, that would be beneficial. So I think if you see him putting up 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, and 15 steals in a season, I think that's the numbers you're going to want to look for him. Kind of around a 300 on base percentage from him would be great. I think if you get a guy like that, who's also an older veteran guy with a young team, I think that would be really beneficial come playoffs to have a guy like that.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think the thing with Grichuk is, and I've said it before, like, he just goes up every time looking for the long ball. At least that's what I see in him. And I would like to see a different approach from him, trying to get on base, maybe raising that OBP a lot more. I do like what he brings defensively. He's a solid guy in center field. He's fast. He's got a good arm, covers a lot of ground. Not Kevin Pillar, but he's still pretty good. I don't know about the contract, to be honest. But and also you talked about like experience and stuff. I don't really know about that because, like, yeah, he does have experience, but is it good experience? Like, he was kind of like a role player in St. Louis, I guess. I think he was starting there, like near the end of his career there. But I would like to see them bring in, if they were to go for like a more experienced guy, a guy who has playoff experience, maybe someone who's in their 30s already, someone who has, played in those meaningful games, right, to teach the young guys. I don't really know if I want Vladdy Bo to be learning from a guy like Grichuk more so than another veteran. But no, I mean, hopefully Grichuk has a good year. He did have a good spring or summer. So I think he's batting 7th, or he's like projected to bat 7th tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know. I don't expect too much from him this year, but hopefully he can step up and be an impactful player for them.
I think in 4 years, you're going to look back at Grichuk's contract and think it's good.
Because he'll be gone.
No, he will. I don't think he'll be gone. We're going to have to be paying all these young guys big money by then. We're not going to have money to go out and buy a big ticket center fielder.
I'm not saying big ticket.
His contract is going to look real good in 4 or 5 years when he's the starting center fielder. Trust me, he was a young guy back on St. Louis. He got to play with a good manager, good guys like Wainwright, and I think Pujols was probably around back then.
Yeah, true.
Holiday, veteran guys like that. So I think it probably showed him from a younger age that what winning is like. And like you said, he was starting even back in his early 20s on a good team. So I think he's shown potential. I think he can, if, like you said, he maybe tones down the home run swing and goes for more contact and tries to work in a few walks to get on base more, I think he'll be a solid piece for the Jays going forward.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to stay optimistic here. Yeah, I think he can do it. I think he can do it, hopefully. I want to talk about Teoscar Hernandez because, he came over from the Astros, and when the Jays first got him, like, there was a lot of excitement about Hernandez and what he showed early on because he was putting together, I think when he first got here, he was like really hot right out of the gate. I think he had a phenomenal spring training. He got called up, put together a few games with home runs in consecutive games, and then I believe he got sent down, but then he got called back up again like later on that year. Once again, was pretty good. And then it seems like as soon as he's become that starting outfielder for the Jays, he's been on the decline. He is kind of like Grichuk in the way that he only tries to hit the home run. And I don't really know if Hernandez is a part of the long-term plan. The Jays might be hoping that it's Fisher. What do you think the Jays do with Hernandez long-term?
I definitely don't think he's the long-term plan in the outfield. I think he's shown his shortcomings defensively, and his bat can be really good and then it could be really bad. He's a pretty streaky player, so he needs to get some consistency with that. I could see him kind of in the midterm future being a DH when Vladdy's still playing first, being a DH if he can figure out his bat. I think he could be a guy to hit kind of 25 home runs, 80, 90 RBIs in that DH role if he can get his bats straightened out. So I think you might see a guy like Fisher or a guy like Biggio move out to right field, and then you might see Hernandez move to DH, or you might see him leave the team altogether if he can't get his bat sorted.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. I think there are some replacements that are knocking on the door for Hernandez, but I can see him turning it around and being an impactful player. We have seen it in the past. He has shown glimpses. So, um, yeah, we'll see what he has in store this year. Yeah, we're coming to an end of the podcast. Tyler, do you have any like hot take about the Jays this season, or maybe even in future years about the Jays? Anything that you kind of want to say? Maybe like a bold prediction for this year, potentially even.
Well, I'll give you maybe one negative, one positive prediction.
Okay,
How about that?
sure.
I think Hyunjin Ryu pitches to over a 4.25 ERA. I don't see him adjusting too well to start life in the AL East,
Okay.
especially playing so much in the division. Unless he gets lined up with a lot of starts against Baltimore, I think he'll be a bit slower to adjust. I think he'll show flashes of the player he can be, and I think it might be until next year we really see him kind of getting into that mid threes ERA where I think he can be one day with the Jays. But I think he'll have a bit of a tough time adjusting, and I could definitely see his ERA over 4.25.
Wow. Okay. Um, what's the positive? Is that the only is that the negative?
Yeah,
What's the
that's the
positive?
negative. Positive, I think I could see both Bichette and Vladdy hitting over 300.
Okay.
Both Vladdy probably on a 30 home run pace. Probably doesn't get there in a shortened season, but if it
On
were
pace,
full
yeah.
schedule, on pace for at least 30 home runs. Um, and I think I could see Espinal sticking around the team a bit longer. I think he could show his defense. I think he could show some flashes with the bat, and I think he could prove to a lot of people he might be an option at second base a lot sooner than some people thought, and he might push Biggio out to the outfield a lot sooner than people are anticipating.
Yeah, I guess going back to Ryu, it will be a challenge for him facing teams like the Rays, Red Sox, and the Yankees as well, especially facing them 40 times throughout the year, ignoring the Orioles. But yeah, that is going to be a challenge for him, making the transition from NL to AL, and toughest division in baseball. So I don't know if it's going to be that high, 4.25. I don't know if they even make the playoffs if it's that high. I feel like Ryu has to be kind of their MVP in some way if they want to have any shot at winning or at making the playoffs. He's got to win a lot more games than he loses. And I think Shoemaker has to have a solid year. I was thinking his ERA should be around 4 as well if they want to contend. Um, and then I think Bo and Vladdy can both hit 300. I think Bo will definitely hit 300. I think in his 50 so games last year, I think he hit maybe 310, 311 to end the
Yeah, I think
season.
it was 311.
311, and then I think Vladdy was around 270, but he kind of got off to a slow start. And I mean, there's so much pressure on Vladdy first getting here, so um, I wonder if playing in Buffalo helps out. These guys almost batted 400 there. So
Yeah, who
I don't,
knows what it can do. I think a lot of people are not realizing just how good of a player Vladdy is to come in at age 21 and put up the
I think
numbers
he's
he
young.
did last
He
year.
was 19, right?
He was
I think he was.
19 last year.
I believe so.
Whatever age he came in last year, to put up a 270 plus average with 16 home runs and almost 70 RBIs is very impressive. So I think he'll only take a step forward this year. I think he'll have to play real well to hit near 300, but I could see definitely 290s for sure. Him touching that with at least as many home runs as he had last year, I think. Um, yeah, I think big things could be coming from him. He's looked good in spring. He hit that 2-run home run in the last exhibition game before the rain shut it down, right over out of the stadium, over the big monster, over the green monster. So I think he's ready to go, and I think he could hit some balls a long way this year for sure.
Yeah, he crushed that one. Um, and yeah, I think the thing also with Vladdy is a lot of people were concerned about his weight, but it looks like he's really slimmed down uh, coming into this year, and he worked hard in the off season. So I think the sky is the limit for Vladdy. Obviously, potential is really, really high. So he's got a lot to live up to if he ever wants to have a career like his father did. But I'm sure he can. I mean, it's obviously a lot to say right now if he can get there, but I think he has the potential to. And yeah, like you said, coming in at that young age and putting up the numbers that he did is very, very impressive. So I'm excited to see what Vladdy does this year. And yeah, like I said, playing in Buffalo, these guys put up some great numbers there. They're familiar with the ballpark. It might be a good thing if they play there. Maybe the young guys will like it. Biggio as well, right? He's been there recently. So yeah, that's about that with the Jays. Um, I guess, if I had a hot take or a bold statement, I'm gonna say that they will make the playoffs, and I think that they are gonna finish second in the division. I think
Wow.
the Rays are not as good as what people think they are, looking at their roster. Besides the first 3 guys in their rotation, not too much depth, and even their bullpen as well. And then if you look at their lineup, it's really hit or miss with almost everyone except for Austin Meadows. So, they could get really cold to start and just not being able to pick it back up. The Red Sox scare me. Maybe not so much their pitching, but their offense is always scary. Um, I didn't get to ask you this last podcast, but we'll end off with this question. And I did put it in the document. I just forgot to ask. Who do you think is going to win the World Series?
Oh, that's always such a tough question. I think I'll probably go with an easy pick and say the Dodgers. I think
Finally.
finally they do it. I think the Mookie signing really puts some wind into their sails. I think it picks them up to start the year. Kershaw being injured is a blow, but he faced some injuries last year, and they were able to work through those with the depth that they have at pitching. So I think if he comes back healthy, especially for the playoffs, hopefully this year he can really turn it on in the playoffs, where in the past he's been a little bit shaky. If he could do that, I think that they probably are the favorites to win the World Series this season.
Yeah. I mean, it's always tough because the Dodgers seem to be cursed, or they have been cursed the past couple of years. And even a team like the Atlanta Braves could beat them out in the NLCS, even though they lost Donaldson, but they got Ozuna and they got a solid pitching rotation as well. But I'm going to have to agree with Tyler. I think the LA Dodgers are going to end the curse. They will finally win a World Series this year. And it's going to be epic. It's going to be crazy. And Mookie Betts is going to win a couple more before his career is over with the Dodgers. So I know I said the Padres might be a wild card last episode. I still think that could happen, but it's a longer shot than the
I think
Dodgers.
Phillies are probably a team.
Phillies?
Last episode, you made me come around on them a little bit. I think last year they will be very disappointed, and I think a lot of people are pegging Kutch to be a comeback player of the year candidate this season.
Yeah.
So I think if he puts kind of a renaissance season to back where he was 5 years ago, I think if he puts up numbers similar, maybe not exactly that, but similar to that, I think if Harper plays the way that he can, I think if Wheeler really steps into that top role in the rotation there and runs with it, I think that they have a chance to go pretty far. I think they're a lot different than San Diego and Chicago White Sox, who might be another dark horse for some teams, where those teams look, for some reason, they feel like they're patched together. It feels kind of like Jays back in 2013 when they went out and made that big trade to get Dickey, and they went to the Marlins to get all those guys. It didn't feel like a team. It felt like a bunch of big names brought together. But I feel like the Phillies are more together as a team. They've had a year to really get to know each other last season, and it was a tough year for them all. So I think they'll be really united and wanting to put on a better show this season and go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say so. I think the Phillies do have a more complete team than what the Jays had back in 2013. There was a lot of question marks. There was a lot of excitement, don't get me wrong, with Dickey and Burley, but those guys were old. Those guys were older, and the Phillies have a guy named Aaron Nola, and Jake Arrieta. So I think they got some more guys as well there. So a great offense. So good point you brought up there with the Phillies. I'll play it safe and go with the Dodgers, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it's the Jays. You never know. Anyways, finally, we're done here. I want to thank Tyler for coming on 2 episodes in 1 week. Thank you very much. You're the first guest that has done that. So shout out to you. And anything else you want to say?
I'm honored to have that distinction there. It's been a marathon the past couple nights, but always fun. Shout out to a guy we didn't talk about on the Jays, Jordan Romano, the only Canadian on the roster. No offense to him, but I think without him being a Canadian, I don't think he makes this team. I think the Jays always like to have at least one Canadian on their roster every year, it seems like. So I think we could see him stick around maybe longer than he should if he's not putting up the best numbers. I think he might stick around just for that, to have that Canadian on the roster. Hopefully he does well. He was selected in the Rule 5 draft last year, bounced around. He was with Texas. I forget who he started with. He bounced around to a couple teams and then came back to the Jays. So yeah, I am rooting for him. Hopefully shows up well and he can make Canada proud. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch Romano and see what he can do.
Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully he's our closer of the future when Giles leaves. Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyways, yeah. Shout out to him and shout out to Tyler for doing this. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening to episode number 9 of Unlimited. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at UnlimitedPod. If you guys aren't subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. You got to hit that subscribe button as well. It's just that red button, below our video. So just tap it, hit it, click it. Don't click it, but just, lightly tap it. We're on Spotify as well. So if you want to listen to us without Wi-Fi, download the podcast on Spotify and listen to us wherever you go. And I think that's it. Oh, yeah, it's opening day. It's Jay's opening day. So there you go. Enjoy the game tonight, guys, and let's hope for a Jays win. And that's it. We'll see you guys later.